Buenos dias, my friends. This is Chef Steve from Food and Travel with Chef Steve. We're going to have a fun video today because we're going to do 3 videos in one. We're going to be doing some cooking. We're going to do some Spanish lessons, and we're also going to go to church today. I gotta hear him, man. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a traditional dish that I learned when I was down in San Antonio, which is served during Lent and Easter. It's a very Hispanic, traditional, religious dish, and it is called Capirotada. There's your first Spanish lesson today, Capirotada. Capirotada is basically the Spanish Mexican bread pudding served during Lent and Easter. We all know about the King's Cake in New Orleans, served traditionally during Mardi Gras. So you could say this is San Antonio's version to the Mardi Gras cake that's served in New Orleans. So again, that's what we're going to be doing today, and let's get to it. Okay, we are going to start the Capirotada. Again, as I said, we're going to have a little fun with some Spanish lessons today. Capirotada, as I said, is basically a bread pudding. There's a lot of Hispanic items, so we'll go through that. This you may have never seen before. This is called piloncillo. This is a hard, dark, basically an unrefined brown sugar. We're going to melt this down to make a syrup. So piloncillo. Canelo. Canelo is Mexican cinnamon. Now I've got Mexican cinnamon here. I've got American cinnamon. You can see that the Mexican cinnamon, which has a different flavor and texture than the American symbol, it's flakier, like a tree bark. You can almost break it apart. So that is going to be the Mexican cinnamon, which is what we're going to do today. Another Mexican word, we're going to do bolillos. Bolillos is the Mexican, it's like a big dinner roll, but this is Mexican. We're going to break this up into bite-sized pieces. What I'm going to do too is some leftover Mexican rolls as well, which we're going to do. This is a Mexican sweetbread, which we're going to break up into the dish as well. And a lot of people call this pan dulce. So that's going to be the pan dulce. We also have in here, we're going to be putting currants. We have red currants, white currants, a yellow apple, a nice rind of an orange apple. We're going to be putting in peanuts and apple butter. I'll show you how the apple butter is going to be. And then we're going to be putting in some dried fruits, some coconuts, some fresh bananas, and as I said, we're going to be putting in some dried apricots and also some dried peaches. All right, as I said earlier, there's a very big Hispanic religious symbolism to this dessert. I am not the biggest religious guy in the world, I'll admit that, but the symbolism of this is really, really neat. Why this is so popular for Lent and Easter, I'll tell you why. The bread, which we spoke about earlier, just like in Catholic religions, the bread represents the body of Christ. So that's what the bread represents. The cinnamon sticks, watch this. The cinnamon sticks represents the cross. The cloves, again, many of you, I know what cloves look like, but there might be some that might not. Here are the cloves. Cloves, as you can see, they look like a spike. This represents the nails that Jesus was put to the cross on. So again, a huge symbolism of the cloves. So you never ever want to do this without the whole cloves. And again, we're not using ground, we're using the whole cloves. And then the last religious symbolism, which we have not made yet, is going to be the sugar syrup that we talked about, where we're going to have cloves and cinnamon and the orange peel and the melted sugar, and we're going to make a syrup. And that syrup is going to represent the blood of Christ. So again, we've got the body of Christ, we got the blood of Christ, and we've got the cloves representing the nails. And also people say that the nails represent the thorn on his crown as well. So again, pretty cool when you know the history of it. So again, we're going to go ahead and get this going. Okay, let's go ahead and start the syrup. What we're going to do on the syrup, we're going to have 4 to 5 cups of water. Again, what was the name of this? Piloncillo. Okay, this is very hard. You can cut it with a knife, you can microwave it and make it soft, but it's still hard as a brick. So it just takes about 30 to 40 minutes to dissolve. So we're not going to rush this. We're just going to drop 2 of these. Each of these are about 8 ounces. So we're going to just drop those in. We have 4 nice pieces of a navel orange. We're going to have 4 of the large cinnamon sticks. About 7 to 9 pieces of the whole cloves. And star anise. Isn't that pretty? That is a star anise. So we're going to drop that in there, and then we're going to boil this slowly until it all dissolves into a nice syrup. And once we do that, we'll start toasting the bread. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get the bread ready to toast. Again, we want it bigger than a crouton so it doesn't break up so much, but we don't want it so big that we choke on it. So pieces about this size are good. I did a lot of this ahead of time just to save some time. And again, if you remember your Spanish, some people call this concha, some people call it pan dulce. And again, this is a great sweet Mexican bread that I had that was getting dried up. Dried up bread for this is actually better than fresh. So we're going to break this up as well. I already have the oven at 350 degrees. So we're going to lightly brown these for about 15 minutes, and then we'll have our next step after that. Okay, I decided since we had so much bread on here, and I want to make sure all sides get toasted equally and we don't have any underbaked or overbaked, that I'm just going to go ahead and put it into a bigger pan. This way I can toss it halfway through to make sure that we are all evenly toasted. Okay, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to butter the dish. We have some time to spend doing this right now because the syrup is melting. And I said those big hard cubes of sugar has to melt, which will take about 30 minutes. The bread is also toasting in the oven. So I've got some good Irish butter. We're going to go ahead and make sure that this glass, you can use a metal pan or a Pyrex pan or glass pan, it doesn't matter. But what we want to do is we want to make sure this is well greased. The reason for this is a couple of reasons. Number one, the bread can stick, so we don't want the bread to stick. Plus also having the butter on here, once the butter cooks, it will caramelize and leave a nice crunchy edge, which will add some extra flavor. So now our pan is ready for the bread. Okay, the bread is almost toasted. And as you can see here, we're starting to get a nice caramel color from the sugar. But again, these cubes are still hard. So this is going to take a while. So we're going to cook that on a nice medium setting. All right, now what we're going to do, we're going to be cutting up some of the dried fruit. And again, we don't want it to be really, really small, but again, we want it bite size, so we're just going to do these into a small chop. Again, this fruit is supposed to enhance the flavor of everything, not overwhelm it. So we're going to just put enough in here just to give it a little essence of the apricot and the peach. So there is the apricot. And we have the dried peaches. Okay, now the bread just came out of the oven. The bread's kind of tricky. We don't want the bread soft. We also don't want to break our teeth on it either. Now, obviously, a wet bread won't be soaking up all that syrup that we needed to soak up. So we want these just dry enough to be able to soak up that syrup, but not really, really hard. Okay, now that the bread has been taken out, we're going to put this in apple butter. And again, apple butter, not applesauce. I've seen people use applesauce. It's apple butter. So what we're going to do, we're going to just dip this into the apple butter. I got this hint from a lady online that's been making capirotada for a long time, and she says she changes a lot of the different fruits, but the one thing she'll never ever change is the dipping in apple butter. So that's what we're going to try. So what we're going to do, we don't want to soak all of this, but we're going to, again, we're going to dip each of these pieces of bread in the apple butter. Okay, I almost have all of our pieces dipped in apple butter. The sugar is, piloncillo, is still melting, so we have to wait on that. But this can sit here for a while that melts. I still need to get my ingredients together. I need to open up my can of peanuts over there. I need to peel and slice my fresh yellow apple. Also need to slice my bananas. I like coconut in dessert. Some people don't. Again, so you can add coconut or you can skip it. It's totally up to you. Basically, anything is really up to you. The peanuts are pretty traditional, as well as the bananas. But again, you can skip stuff. Nothing is a do or die on this item. A lot of people will even put cranberries or almonds instead of peanuts. So if you have a peanut allergy, you can go ahead and use almonds instead. I'm not a big cashew fan, but other people use cashews as well, which obviously cashews are very popular in Texas. So that's why you see a lot of people in Texas make the capirotada with cashews. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get the rest of that fruit chopped up. Okay, we've got everything all set aside here. Now again, we're going to take that greased baking sheet that we had, and we're going to go ahead and put in our dipped bread. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue to fill the bottom of this pan with our dipped bread, and then we're going to follow with our next remaining layers. The bread feels good. It is dried, but not really, really hard. So once we pour the syrup on there, it will have a real nice soaking capability. And talking about the syrup, I just checked on that. Those big blocks of sugar have melted. But what I want to do is I want to let that sit for about another 20-30 minutes to let the anise and the cloves and the orange rind soak into that syrup. So again, we're not rushing this. We're going to go ahead and just let that sit a little bit more, and then we'll continue with the next layer. Okay, I got the apple cord. I took out the center, obviously, with the seeds in it, and the stem. Oh, there's seeds right there. So I'm going to do half of the apple on the first layer, the other half of the apple on the second layer. I have a nice fresh banana. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put the banana. Again, we don't want to cover the entire top, so we want to, kind of like putting pepperoni on a pizza, we just want to kind of scatter the banana around the top.
So you made a lasagna reference.
I know. We cook everything here at Rice Paradise. Okay. I don't know how I'm going to get the second layer in on this, but... Okay, the next layer we're going to be putting on is the cheese. I know it sounds weird having cheese and bread pudding, but again, this is the way it is. I'm going to use 3 kinds of cheeses. Again, we're going to do just a cheddar and a Monterey Jack. We're going to sprinkle that over the top. And again, it's not lasagna, so we don't want to kill it with cheese. We just want to have a little bit of cheese. And here's another Mexican word of the day, queso fresco. Okay, this is a crumbling cheese. Okay, so on the queso fresco, it's a nice crumbling cheese. I've already broken some of this up, and it looks almost like feta cheese almost. So I've broken this up into little crumbles, and we're going to add the queso fresco on top of the other cheeses we have. So now we have 3 cheeses on this. Okay. Okay. On here, as I said, some people like coconut, some people don't. I'm going to put a light layer of coconut. And the peanuts on top. On the raisins, I have a mixture of golden raisins and the red raisins. And a mixture of the dried apricots and the dried peaches. Okay, we just took off the syrup off of the stove. I did strain it off the camera because, again, we don't want those bits of pieces of clove. Clove is very, very hard, so we don't want anyone biting down on a whole clove. So we're going to basically just drizzle this over the top. Again, nobody really likes wet, soaky bread, so we just want the bread to soak up enough of the syrup without leaving a whole lot of residue. So now that is the first layer. Now on to layer number 2. There is the jack and the sharp cheddar. And then we're gonna hit it with the Mexican cheese. Here's a quiz. What's this Mexican cheese called again? Tick, 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 tick. Queso fresco. I'm actually gonna put a little bit more cheese on there. Because it is crumbling cheese, so you can just take it in your hand, just like feta cheese, and just crumble a little bit more on top. And again, on with the coconut. And the peanuts. And the raisins. The apricots. And the dried peaches. And as I said, I did cut up that apple earlier. I said I was going to use half now, half later. So we're going to put that on the top. I still have 5 fingers, that's good. And then one more banana. Okay, all the ingredients have been added. The last item is the second layer of syrup. Okay. What I'm going to do just for garnish is I'm going to just put a little bit more cheese on the top. I love cheese. The cheddar cheese can sometimes get kind of hard and crusty when it's in the oven for 30-45 minutes. So this cheese will be nice and creamy, and it will melt into the dessert instead of getting a hard, crispy texture on the outside. Well, there's the oven at 350 is what I have that in. Now I'm going to go ahead and cover this, and we're going to go ahead and bake this for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then what I'll do is I'll take the cover off the aluminum foil cover off, and we'll let it cook for about another 5, just to slightly brown the top.
And to melt the fresh cheese?
Yep, and then also too, it will help to lightly brown the cheese that I just sprinkled on top. So we're going to wrap this up.
Shiny side down. Shiny side reflects the heat, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here we go, into the oven. Okay, we took it out of the oven. What I did, as I said earlier, I didn't want to put cheese on too early because it gets hard. So what I did is I cooked it for about 40 minutes with the aluminum foil on the top. I took it off, sprinkled a little bit more of the cheese mixture on top, and then I let it cook for another 10 minutes in the oven uncovered. Looking at the side, it absorbed all the syrup, which is great. And yeah, it smells really good. So we're going to let this cool down so it won't burn our mouths, probably 15, 20 minutes. And then we'll break into it and give it a try. And we'll get back to you then.